Welcome to our very first episode of the Leo's Den podcast. I am your host, SID.X.
And I am your other host, Sebastian.
And today we are diving deep into the ever-evolving landscape of cinema, focused on current state affairs in the world of streaming platforms and the strategic move to entice audiences back into the movie theater, especially with one of my favorite movies that recently came out, Barbie, making waves in the box office.
So grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's explore the fascinating world of film. So, girl, I'm very excited because we have been waiting to make a podcast for a couple years now.
Yes, that has been in the talks for a while, since our car.
So not everybody knows this. Most people don't know this, but
Yeah.
even this movement that we're starting with Nova Cinema Pictures and Orion X Records,
Yep.
all of it came from you driving me around, me being a passenger princess in your car,
Not the passenger princess.
and us just talking about our dreams and what we want to do and our love for film and cinema. And it's about time that we are able to get stuff moving, produce some of our original content, work with some of the companies we already been starting to work with, you know, and make waves, just like Barbie, just like Oppenheimer.
Absolutely. Like, I think that going from the car and like having conversations outside your house and like talking about like what we want our future to look like definitely like set a foundation to where we are now.
Absolutely.
Love that.
I'm very excited that we also are starting in such an iconic time in pop
Absolutely.
culture.
Yeah, it is definitely like the perfect time to just be exploring and feeling out like our options and like what we're doing. It's gonna be important. We're gonna be iconics.
we have to be confident
Absolutely.
in everything we do. I think that's the key to success.
You and I are like a great team, and like the team that we do have, I feel like when we put our heads together like we did with our magazine, like we make beautiful things.
I love that. And you know, just like Barbie, just like Oppenheimer, even though we may have some different aspects and some similar aspects too, it works.
I love the Barbie movie just because it set a tone across people in general for this time frame that we're living, and it was very empowering, and I love that movie. That movie was well put together, and I'm so glad a woman directed that movie.
Absolutely.
It's so exciting. I'm so happy for her.
What I really like about the Barbie movie is that it touches on gender issues for both men and females. You know, hashtag you're Ken enough. I love that so much.
I want the sweater.
No, girl, the fucking flame jacket he had, I was like, I know it's supposed to be like a douchebag thing, but I kind of want it.
Oh. No, I love like the color palette. Like it was so beautiful. Like what
Production design.
Yeah, like what I loved about the movie is that like if you're an adult watching that movie, like you get the message in a deeper meaning, and it can apply to many people, like regardless of like their experiences in life. But in a kid's perspective, that's also like colorful and magical and empowering for the next generation.
It definitely had some very good messages. I love how it's saying that you can be anything and you can be nothing at the same time. The way that social media works is that it wants you to be something very specific, you know? And then once people started saying, I don't want to be that, it kind of went in the opposite direction, where now it's like you have to be perfect in different kinds of way. You have to be, you know, if you're a woman, you have to be a doctor. You have to be extremely successful. You have to be tough. If you are a man, now you have to be whatever, you know? So what I like about it and what they talk about is that you have the freedom to do whatever your soul feel like it needs to do. You can, if you want to be extremely successful, 3 figures, 6 figures, you can. And if you just want to live a quieter life, you can. You don't have to be perfect. And media definitely went from having hypersexual images of women And now it's saying you have to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
But not everybody wants to be
Mm-hmm.
those two extremes.
Yeah, there's like never like a happy medium, you just want to be an average normal person, like you can do that, but you also have other options to explore. In the Barbie movie, the main Barbie that we were taking a look at was the perfect Barbie. She took a leap of faith in her perfection and realized that unfortunately life aren't straight lines. Like you have hardship down the road, and like it perfected it so well. And just the aspect of like emotion, and that is like it's okay to feel emotions. Everybody feels emotions, and I feel like that movie just showcased it so well.
And with that being said, like you can be Wonder Woman. You can be everything all at once.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? You don't have to stick to one thing. You can, like you said, emotions are real. One day you can be feeling like you're this badass bitch, and then the other day you can feel like I want to stay home. I don't feel good, and that's okay.
That's me on the daily. I love how in the movie the old woman sitting
That was so beautiful
on the bus station.
Yeah.
That was the daughter of the maker of Barbie. Like that was so touching. Even in the end when I believe they were in like just a blank room with nothing.
Yeah.
We forget that like sometimes life can be so simple and it can also be nothing, But we make it hard for ourselves. That movie was just incredible. I can go on and on about that movie. It was so good.
Yeah, I love all of the complex themes about it. I love how it touched for both men and women. I love how it's saying that you can be everything, you can be nothing. You don't have to be extremes, you don't have to be anything. You can just be you, and that you are enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I can't wait for that part 2. Let's go, Barbie part 2. Let's go. I'm here for it.
I want Alan. I want more Alan content.
I want to be on the cast if you're listening to this, Miss Director.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Get
you
up,
can
Leo's
afford
Den.
it. I'll work for free, girl. How about that?
Oh, stop.
No, for real. Like, I won't kiss your boobs, but I will bring you some coffee. For sure. If you haven't already, go take a look at our Leo's Den magazine at Nova Cinema Pictures or at Orion X Records.
Oppenheimer tone is 100% different from Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they both also share some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
They both, at a surface level, when you go to see Barbie, you're expecting just, like a comedy. You're expecting bubblegum pink. You're expecting, nothing too serious,
Candyland.
And I love how they broke it. And then with Oppenheimer, I feel like you go in looking for this thriller, scientific Christopher Nolan type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that, but I feel like it also had some really nice undertones, especially after the explosion of the bomb. Following Oppenheimer's emotions, even though they didn't talk about it, through the cinematography, through the lighting changes, they really showed his fear of what he created.
Yeah, so
they really show the emotions that comes after doing something.
So
because it really was a horrific thing.
Mm-hmm. So it was more like sound driven.
It was both. I would say the story is through dialogue, but the emotions I feel like was shown through the cinematography and through storytelling techniques, through visual techniques, cinematic techniques, such as sound design and cinematography, for sure.
Mm-hmm. One thing that stands out from what told me was the times when there wasn't anything going on, like there was no sound. Yeah. I think that was impressive.
So that specific technique was very apparent when they were going to do the test bomb. And there was so much buildup of stuff happening, as people were preparing to finally see if it was going to work or not. And there was also like underlying tension because there was a very small possibility that the world could just end because the explosion would cause a chain reaction that would never stop and it would just end the world. So there was also sub storylines going on building up to this really impactful moment of creating this bomb and testing it. So there was a lot of stuff going on, people getting prepared, people talking, people setting up, setting up the bomb, getting really far away, getting their glasses ready, getting their stuff ready. There was a scientist putting on a bunch of, cream all over his face. I'm not sure what the substance was. I don't remember. And then he had instructed this other person to be ready to push a button to cancel it if something bad happens. And then it all built up to this moment where it was going to happen. And I was expecting to get my eardrums blown out.
I'm sure.
But then it happens. And then it's silent, completely silent, as flames start to engulf the screen. And you see everybody just there in this deafening silence. And it was so beautiful. And then after a little while of these really beautiful visuals, boom, the sound comes on. And you hear that impactful sound. And you see the sonic waves. You see the impact that it hits. It's that delay. And I feel like that delay of the sound was very beautiful.
Did it make you cry like Barbie did? Well, Barbie made me cry. I cried.
It didn't make me cry, but it definitely did impress me.
I personally don't think that is 3 hours worthy of watching it. Personally, I think 3 hours to watch a bomb explode. So
here's my comment on that. I agree that it should have been cut down a bit. The beginning of it, I feel like could have been edited down a lot. Because it was a little bit slower, but once it got going into the main plot, it was going. But I don't think the whole point of it was just to see a bomb explode. I think that's what it was at a superficial level, at the surface level. But one thing that I really loved, and they really touched down on the ending, was fear.
I mean, we all have a fear of something.
But the fear of what the government, what people in positions of power can do, risking the lives of citizens just to keep being in power.
Yeah.
I feel like that's not being talked about a lot, but I feel like it's a really good storyline that at the end, especially in the third act, they really touched on it. So the first act of the movie is just setting up Oppenheimer, setting up the events that's gonna, take place. And then the second act for sure is very interesting. It's very science focused. It's focusing on the actual construction of the bomb. And then, once it happens, once that explosion happens, it doesn't end. I was expecting the movie to end right there. That's kind of when I feel like the surface level of that movie stopped. And then this new act started coming. And I'm not going to lie, when I thought the movie was going to end and it didn't, I was a little disappointed. I was like, I turned around to Tyler and I was like, bro, this shit is still going. But it hooked me back in almost immediately because it started touching more deeply on Oppenheimer, his regrets and stuff like that, and how power will betray you and how people will betray you for power. And it followed a sequence of the aftermath of the bomb. And I don't know if you know this, but they basically tried to bury Oppenheimer after that. They used him for his genius and they threw him away like trash.
Damn, that's crazy.
It was him fighting and him dealing with the repercussions, him seeing footage of the bomb and living almost trauma, having to have the death of so many people on his conscience. You know what I mean? And you might say, well, he did it. But at the same time, it is war. And it was at a time where if you weren't 100% a patriot with America, you were a radical extremist and they would consider you, a communist. So it was a really different time in America where it was almost as if you're all or nothing for America. And he had to follow, the regulations and stuff like that. And he's a scientist. He wants to make discoveries. You know what I mean? But then it didn't stop there. Like the government took it, later on they made the hydrogen bomb, which Oppenheimer was not for. There was a really cool moment in the movie where, I think he goes talk to the president and the president calls Oppenheimer a wimp because he didn't like what had happened. And during the movie a lot, they touched on sciences making a petition to stop. So there was definitely more complex themes going on. And one of the final scenes in the movie I thought was really beautiful because in the beginning of the movie, they showed a scene where Oppenheimer talked to Albert Einstein and he showed Albert Einstein the potential of them ending the world because of the chemical or the chain reaction happening and the explosion not stopping, but just literally exploding the entire earth. And he says something to Albert Einstein and Albert Einstein walks away really sad. They didn't tell you why. And they kind of touched on it of like the person who witnessed it be like, what did he say to him?
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, they revealed what he said. And he told Albert Einstein, we did it. But he wasn't talking about doing the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
He was talking about ending the world.
Damn.
Even though the chain reaction didn't happen, he said, we ended the world. Because he knows the repercussions of his creation.
I mean, it sounds like a really long documentary.
I would recommend watching it, especially if you're into film, at least once.
Yeah.
It is a good movie. It's not as fun as Barbie, but it's very interesting. And I feel like it's not relevant to per se social constructs, which is a very popular topic right now, but it's relevant to political. It's relevant to the dangers of people and government and power and stuff like that. So I feel like in that sense, it is very relevant, very impactful. It definitely impacted me, especially the ending. I felt was really well done.
Definitely will watch it once it hits Netflix.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite parts in Barbie was the montage that they used. I think that scene was so beautiful because I feel like it took me back in time, and it's kind of when I started tearing up, but that's besides the point. The montage was made out of clips from the cast themselves, and that just made it personable for the viewers, as well as it made the movie personable for the cast themselves. I stand behind that movie. I don't care what anybody says. If you want to say something, come at me.
Yeah.
No, that movie was definitely great. It reminded me almost like Life Size with like Tyra Banks.
Yeah.
Have you watched that movie?
I haven't, but I know of it.
Yeah.
I know the reference.
It's similar concept. That movie was like a foundation for like the rest of the Barbies to come. That movie just captured people in many different ways of forms. You don't have just like a perfect Barbie all the time. You have all of these different types of Barbies that do all these different types of things. And that's why I say for me, like, that movie was very empowering.
No, it was definitely very impactful. I really enjoyed that movie.
Yeah,
I will say there was a little part in the first act that I didn't particularly enjoy the pacing of it.
Yeah.
But that is like my only critiques. I thought that it was really funny and that I love the message that it was given.
I agree with you. Like, visually, for me, I would have wanted a little bit more visually for it being like, what was budget? I think budget was...
It was big, yeah.
What? 145 million? I wanted a little bit more, but I like it that they kept it fun and playful.
The budget was $145 million.
Yeah. And so it's like the storyline was just there for me that I didn't care about the visual aspects. Like the little war.
It carried it.
Yeah, the little war with like Ken and stuff, like the whole side story. That was so cute. Like, I enjoyed it when they started fighting each other. Are you serious? Come on. It was so fun. It was playful. I liked it. But like I said, from an adult's perspective, in some way, somehow, you can relate to that story.
Absolutely.
Actress, so beautiful. So fitting.
Margot Robbie is stunning. Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, it was hard for me to like transition her from like Harley Quinn to Barbie, but she did a fantastic job. I love it.
And I love also that they touched on the fact that the male patriarchy is... It's bad, of course, but it's not only bad for women, it's also bad for men. Yeah. And that it doesn't benefit anybody, you know. I mean,
it's toxic.
It's toxic.
It's kind of gatekeeping of people from their highest potential. I'm sure we're going to dive into this, but even in our field of work, there are a lot of people that are gatekeeping, you know, the film industry and the music industry. And, you know, multiple industries are being gatekept from, like, people who want it.
Independent artists.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to come on stream as well so that I could watch it like 50 times.
Absolutely. Girl, I'll be there right with you with my popcorn.
For real. I'll have a surround sound set for us for that movie too.
We gotta get some Cosmopolitans with that movie.
Absolutely. I also do want to bring attention to like how many people these two movies have brought back to like the movie theaters.
Absolutely. You know, we are in the streaming revolution.
When I went to watch Barbie, it was crowded. And I watched it like 2 days after it came out.
Absolutely.
It was still crowded. Just the advertising for it as well. Like in the movie theater, they had the little Barbie doll box. Everyone was wearing pink or something from the 80s. I was going to wear something from the 80s, but Sierra told me not to. These two movies brought so many people to the movie theater to enjoy the movie theater's experience. Yes, it is a tad bit expensive if you're on a budget, but it it was still very much enjoyable.
No, when I think of the traditional cinema experience, I think of like oh, the Rocky Horror Picture Show,
Oh my God, yes,
and
I love
how
that.
everybody dressed up, everybody went. It was an experience. You took time off to go see the premiere. You took
Yes.
time off to go with your friends. You took time off to go and experience this movie on the big screen with sound. You know,
Yes, that movie was iconic. I try to get Sierra to watch that movie, and she thinks it's not good.
oh
But
stop.
I love that movie. I went to go see that Rocky Horror Picture Show in Orlando, my first vacation here in Florida. And it
Yeah,
was, they were like performing the scenes, and I was like oblivious because it was my second time watching it. That movie was great. Love that movie.
and the thing about it is that it is time consuming, but it's an experience that you get to share with other people.
Mm-hmm. It
And
is.
I'm glad because, with streaming platforms today, it has completely transformed the way that we consume content. You
Absolutely.
know, it makes it more accessible for people to watch casually, but the traditional cinema experience really is something that goes beyond just consuming the content.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. Like, I don't know, at least for me as like creative people, there's something about going to the movies with people that think like you and having a conversation about it afterwards. That is so good. I think we saw House of Dragon.
Yes.
Great show. But even though we had that experience of like watching House of Dragons in my house, going to the movie theaters is so much like excitement. I love it. Like, I would say like Netflix movies are good, but just the experience of seeing them on a big screen, sitting on the dirty chairs or clean, quote unquote, chairs, drinking soda, eating popcorn,
It's an event. You have to get ready, get all fancy.
for real.
It's a part of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Like you're about to walk on the red carpet.
And with the rise of streaming, movie theaters have faced a decline in attendance.
Absolutely.
But recently, especially as we have seen, Barbenheimer has been pushing audiences back to the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So why you think that the double feature that was Barbie and Oppenheimer, through it going viral, created such
Yeah.
excitement to go back to the theater?
Yeah, I would say that like both of these movies, I would stick with Barbie because it is the movie that I saw. That movie was very much for social media. It created attraction in social media. You can create memes, short clips, recreate outfits. Their soundtrack was amazing. Like I love every song on it.
Nicki Minaj with Ice Spice.
The doll, the beauty, the one
Yeah.
and only, the pink Barbie, Nicki Minaj. Like, you cannot go wrong with putting
Mhm.
Nicki Minaj on the Barbie movie as a soundtrack. She killed
Yeah.
it.
I will
Like,
say I don't think Oppenheimer had as strong as marketing because Barbie went hard for marketing. They
did.
had Nicki Minaj, Ice Spice. They had Billie Eilish doing such a beautiful song.
Yes.
They had the benefit of having an already established brand that is
Mhm.
already so iconic
That too, yeah.
with strong imagery that has a connotative attachment to that brand and to happiness.
Mm-hmm.
It's camp, so that already is content enough to go viral on platforms specifically such as TikTok.
Absolutely.
Um,
Like, so.
but I feel like what really helped Oppenheimer
Mm-hmm.
is that the two movies seemed so opposite, so different. You have the campy bubblegum pink Barbie, and then you have the dark, gritty Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that having those two those films that really are a juxtaposition to each other
Mm-hmm.
helped create this phenomenon.
Absolutely. I think that like, and then it also became like a thing where like people were just like, oh, like which one should we watch first? And then it created the talk on social media. Some people were just like, go see this movie or go see that movie first and then go watch this movie. It created attraction back to movie theaters, and a lot of people like really showed up.
I think we should discuss, different innovative strategies that movie theaters and films can do to bring back and entice people back to the cinema experience. I feel like one big thing is immersive technologies such as IMAX, and I know with Oppenheimer there was a really big buzz around what format you should see the movie in.
Mhm.
I think upgrading cinemas and making them more enticing could really help. Do you know about 4D, the seats that move?
Yeah, those are cool.
Those are cool. And then also, I feel like social media appealing to TikTok trends can be very helpful. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what really helped Barbie personally. So, what do you think are some techniques that films and theaters can employ to help bring
Yeah.
back an art form and an experience that's
Yeah.
so classic?
Absolutely. I think that first we start with the movie theaters, revamp every single movie theater. All of them should have the latest of everything, you know, the latest screen, the latest projector, the latest surround sound to make the experience enjoyable. I understand what all of those tweaks.
It might be expensive.
However, if you market it properly, if you make simple changes to the theater, you will have a lot more people coming and enjoying. Now, as far as like the film perspective, I think that story. I will always say story and sound are two components that like really go hand in hand, but those two things have to match what you're looking at. But if you have the story and the sound to cover the image up or vice versa, like I think that you can get away with a lot of those things. Like Barbie did. The story was
Yeah.
so powerful, but the images didn't really like speak to me.
Yeah.
Sure, it was cute, it was fun, it was like Candyland, it was like popsicles everywhere type of thing. But I would have liked to see a little bit more visually. But that
Yeah.
story just carried. The music just carried.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I think it's fun. Like if the movie theaters were able to upgrade and the movies were able to be more critically thought out in the viewer's perspective, then you have a great experience. And then those box office tickets are just gonna flow through easy. And also just be creative, like have fun. In the film industry, I feel like everything is becoming so structured now.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a format, like you have to follow this step. But in reality, like creativity can be different to many people's eyes. Again, it's going back to like 100 people looking at the same pictures. Every single person is going to have a different perspective.
I feel like there also needs to be a selling point specifically for movies.
Mm-hmm.
An intrigue point. Lots of people, when they want to go see a movie, yeah, they say it looks good, but they also say, and there's this aspect, you know. I feel like specifically for Barbie and Oppenheimer, for Barbie, I feel like the selling point was that it's Barbie, it's the name. You know what I mean?
It's also
It's a toy company. It's this iconic image and doll made into a movie format. I think that was a selling point for Barbie. And with Oppenheimer, I feel like a really big selling point was the fact that one, it's a Christopher Nolan film, who is a very iconic and talented director, but also, you know, in contrast to Barbie, the main thing wasn't the story. It was, well, the main thing was the story, but a very big aspect were the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was excited to see the visuals for Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there was a lot of buzz. I saw a lot on my TikTok For You page talking about the format. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you have to see it in 70mm screen. You have to see it in this. If you don't, it's not worth it. See it how Nolan intended. All of this stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like a really big selling point for that movie was you have to see the Christopher Nolan film. You have to see it in the right format. You have to see the images how they were meant to be seen.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
So I feel like what filmmakers could really do is choose an aspect of the movie that can be put through marketing,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
that you can talk about in interviews, you can talk about on social media. For example, this is the first movie that is talking about a specific issue. You know what I mean? This is the first movie that's shooting in the specific location. There's different aspects that you can choose that could be marketed to create the hype around it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like also target social media. Social media is a big thing in today's date.
One thing also that, continuing on the marketing
Mm-hmm.
aspects of the conversation, is that one thing that Barbie did was releasing pink everything.
Yeah.
Even people trying to market their own stuff because of the popularity of Barbie started marketing. I saw someone do pink tacos, Barbie edition. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that already connects to the brand itself,
Mm-hmm.
of Barbie. Moving on a little bit, I do just talking about, having that selling point for
Mm-hmm.
marketing. Even if you have that, I will say it's very important to still keep up the quality of the storytelling.
Oh, absolutely.
And I want to briefly talk about one thing that I feel like is one of the most important aspects, if not the most important aspect of storytelling,
Mm-hmm.
and that is making your characters relatable,
Yes,
and interesting. So you have some kind of attachment to. If
absolutely.
you don't, I feel like movies fall short if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have that building up the characters. One big part of Barbie was that we liked all the characters. We liked Barbie, Margot Robbie's character, original Barbie,
Mm-hmm.
Crazy Barbie, Love Crazy Barbie, Alan. All of those people
Absolutely.
had stuff that we can find ourselves in. And it's such a campy world, but
Mm-hmm.
even though they're plastic dolls, technically, you still relate to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
In Oppenheimer, I talked about this earlier, and that was seeing Oppenheimer's reactions, having to struggle with his diabolical creation
Mm-hmm.
and the consequences of that, and although they didn't say it specifically through the cinematography and through those scenes, you really did feel bad,
Mm-hmm.
and I found myself rooting for him not to get kicked off of the board. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that really, even though it was a long movie, that ending I feel like was strong because of that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of the movie honestly didn't do him much favors for any of the characters, but in the ending and that final act, I feel like what really drove it home was connecting to that human side, especially because I feel like that was one of the main messages Christopher wanted to get across was the human aspect of it, and the danger and the fear aspect of, the potentials of nuclear war and what that can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one of my tips or one of my thoughts is that storytelling, you have to have a very strong character,
Mm-hmm.
and you need to make them relatable in some sort of aspect. Even when we look at movies where the main character is a villain, or even just classical movies where there's villains involved, they have some sort of relatable, like the Joker, for example.
Mm-hmm.
The newest Joker movie, he is a villain, but they built up that character in a way that you still relate to him, that you still feel bad for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's very smart. Back in college, I had a friend who I worked along with him a lot. His name was Sunny. I know you know Sunny.
Per Sunny.
Sunny, shout out to Sunny. And I remember we talked about having that save the cat moment. And
Mm-hmm.
he said that specifically. He learned from one of the professors. And I believe with the save the cat moment was a moment where the villain, despite all of his evil actions, would like save a cat or something like that. And it provides depth to the characters. It makes it complex, which is another aspect of these movies that we've seen today, and that we talked about complexity in the characters and complexities in the stories. Don't make characters, don't make your world, don't make anything one dimensional. Think a little bit more behind the story.
Yeah, no, I definitely get that. Like, storytelling is important. You have to build that arc for that character, and I am so excited for the new Joker because Queen Lady Gaga
Lady
is on
Gaga.
it. But yeah, Lady Gaga in the new Joker movie is iconic.
Now that we're talking about moving a little bit into the future of film, what comes next after Barbie, what comes next after Oppenheimer, how to bring back the classical theater experience, as well as female leads, and talking about future projects such as the new Joker movie with Lady Gaga.
Mm-hmm.
There is another little story. I don't know if you heard about the new Snow White movie.
No, it better be better than Once Upon a Time because Once Upon a Time was killer.
Well, there's actually a little bit of news and a little bit of controversy happening. One is that it's very similar to the Halle Berry situation where they changed the race of character, and this time they changed Snow White to be a Latina, which personally I don't have a big issue with. But one of the biggest issues that people are having is that the main actress, and I'm gonna have to look up her name in a minute, she has been doing some interviews and she's kind of been dissing the original. And it ties in a little bit with Barbie about not having to be, Wonder Woman all the time. And to allow people to be whoever they want to be, allow people to be the type of woman, the type of person, the type of man that they want to be, or that they are. Not that they want to be, that they are. And she keeps, from what I've seen from the comments that I've seen a lot of people talk about, is that people are upset because she's kind of been saying that the original Snow White was a pushover and that she didn't want her to depend on a man saving her, and that they kind of threw away a lot of like the romance aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that they want Snow White to be this badass bitch who, you know, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's really cool and that's fine. But a lot of people are complaining because they're saying there's nothing wrong with romance. There's nothing wrong in having a woman be not necessarily submissive, but not having to be a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
That women can be warriors in their own way. They don't have to be out there beating people up. They don't have to be out there, you know, bodying a warrior persona. That women can also be artists. They can be
Gentle.
gentle,
Yeah.
and that there's beauty in that, and there is strength in it. I don't know,
Yeah.
something more sublime, more romantic.
Yeah, I think
And it's making waves. What do you think about that?
I feel like women have been warriors for a very long time,
Absolutely.
and we take on a lot of duties, and over time and throughout history I feel like women have been taken on a lot. And yeah, I can understand where people are just like, you know, I just don't want to be beating up people. From a film's perspective, you also have to think about these are characters. These are
Yeah.
made up characters, and we can make them into whatever it is that we want to. But I can get where the actress is coming from. And we, as the audience, expect a little too much from actors and actresses, you know, to fit a mold of
Right.
actresses before them or and actors before them.
Yeah.
As much as I understand them, I also understand the audience's perspective. In a way, yes, you know, there are multiple different amounts of women that act and feel and do things a certain way. And maybe this is just her way, you know, of saying, like, yeah, she's a little too submissive. But
Yeah.
Snow White was an iconic movie
For sure.
film wise. You know, it was such a big break for Disney.
I feel like there needs to be both.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there should be, you know, talking about representation, I feel like both should be able to exist.
Absolutely.
I feel like women should be allowed to have a romantic movie where they aren't, you know, I don't know, Angelina Jolie and Salt, you know what I mean?
Okay, but Angelina
But-
Jolie was
Yeah,
Busting.
amazing. But then there also should be, you know, a second sequel to Salt by Angelina Jolie, because
Yes.
that movie was incredible.
I watched it like
Um,
twice in one weekend.
You know, so I feel like the space for both of them can exist without having to put one down or the other down.
Yeah, you can't bring more attention to one or the other. You have to be able to balance that, you know, like be able to have both. Once upon a time, Snow White was badass.
Yeah,
Love it. Like she fought with Prince Charming. That shit
I
was
love that.
cool. Yeah, like and Sierra put me on to Once Upon a Time because at first I was like, what in the world is this? But then I got into it. I'm just like, this is good. That story was so well written, and I love that it had multiple seasons. But you are able to have both, and Once Upon a Time showcased that. You know, she was loving, she was sweet, she was caring, but she was also badass. So yeah, like you can
I
have
love
both.
that. And I am a really big fan of like the woman lead. You know, my mom is such a warrior, and she has been such an icon to me. A lot of the movies or scripts that I write is inspired by her story and by her attitude and her
Aw.
strength. So I love the story of a badass woman. So I love that, and I think that we should be able to have both. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Because women are
It's
just
realistic.
yeah, women are just best of both
Everything.
worlds. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that there's many layers to women, and every woman is different. You can't treat one the same like you treat the other. And like
Absolutely.
we can all come together and all make beautiful things, but we have to stop destroying each other. And that's something that Barbie definitely like put out there. The bonding between the women, how sealed it was, but there was also bonding between the men and
Absolutely.
knowing how to speak their emotions to each other. And that's why it was just so beautiful to me, because Barbie was so many layers, and it's like an onion. You peel one, you find another till you get
Come
to
through, Shrek reference.
yeah, come on. Sierra loves Trek, so had to throw it in there. But it is like an onion, you know.
Yeah.
Women are like onions. You peel it back until you get to the core. And sometimes you won't find it. Maybe you're not a good peeler.
Yeah, no, to all filmmakers out there, you know, talking about making an effective story by making people relatable and characters relatable. People are complex. Don't make characters one dimensional. You know, even if you are, if you are a straight cis male, put effort into your female characters, into your whatever characters, vice versa. You know, people are complex. People are not one thing.
Absolutely.
You know, don't limit your writing of characters based off of your own experience. Think
Yeah.
about real life people, because that's who's going to be watching your movie. And that's how you want to relate to you. You're not making a movie so you can watch it, and so your own perspective of other people is seen. You want people to see themselves in. So don't be afraid. Talk to women, talk to people, talk to diverse people. You know, expand your understanding of the world. If you want to be a writer, I feel like it's really just so you don't create those one dimensional.
I would say my best advice is if you don't like it, don't watch it.
Period.
Times are changing and people need to keep up with everything that's going on, you know?
Absolutely.
And I know you asked a question earlier, what's next in film? And I was going to say, we're what's next in film.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
just like that. New things coming out, new creative journeys, just a lot more to come from us. We've been hibernating for a year or two, maybe, lingering. But we're here, we're present, and we want to change the film industry and open the doors for a lot of different creative people with different perspectives, different ideas.
And, you know, just to be a little messy and a little controversial and scandalous.
I love that.
Just a little teaser. Speaking of complex stories about complex people, women being able to be both badass and vulnerable and submissive at the same time. Stay tuned for our next project that we'll be hearing about soon. And
Ooh, y'all heard it here.
We're cooking up.
We stay cooking, but it tastes good.
And that is a wrap for today's episode of the Leo Zen podcast. We have dissected a little bit of the impact of streaming services on cinema. We've discussed the viral phenomenon of Barbie and Oppenheimer. Explored a little bit about how characters and specifically how Barbie and Oppenheimer really operated in terms of storytelling, and how you can use that as a marketing opportunity and a way to bring back the movie theater experience. We also talked a little bit about upcoming projects that we're excited for, some current issues, and even a little teaser at the end. So thank you all for joining us today. Remember, you're streaming from home or experiencing the magic on the big screen. The world of film never ceases to amaze us all.
And remember, stay creative, stay inspired, and we will see you in the Leo's Den.